You know what? Let's look at this. This is Jeremy Corbyn. This is from Saturday. Excuse me, on Sunday night, and a speech he gave in Carlisle. This is him accusing Theresa May of attempting to protect the public on the cheap, and the thing that works, I think, about this relative to his greater narrative is the notion of trying to skimp on public services. And that's what I think is really driving this. There's a real
Austerity
sense.
undermines
Yes,
security.
yes. And it fits in broadly with his theme, which is just sort of, you know, you're cutting all of these different services to what end?
If Labour is elected, I will commission a report from the security services on Friday on the changing nature of the terrorist threat. Our priority must be public safety, and I will take whatever action is necessary and effective to protect the security of our people and our country. That includes full authority for the police to use whatever force is necessary to protect and save life, as they did last night, as they did in Westminster in March. You cannot protect the public on the cheap. The police and security services must get the resources they need, not 20,000 police cuts. Theresa May was warned by the Police Federation, but she accused them of crying wolf.
It was interesting. I saw a clip of, and I don't know what kind of official he was, but he was clearly associated with the police. I don't know if he was the equivalent of the commissioner or the minister.
Chief.
Yeah, and he basically just said she's lying. They've been cutting the hell out of our resources, and all the extra police you see here are just being brought from other jurisdictions, and they're working overtime.
So yeah, 16-hour overtime during the, and then he said it, basically the rest of the country was uncovered.
Yep. I mean,
So
it's interesting that an attack like this may end up working in his favor as opposed to Theresa May's. It's not necessarily the sort of the narrative you would necessarily expect, but yeah.
and
Play
the
the-
reason
play
to
the
be
ad.
excited.
Say again.
Well, the reason to be excited is, you know, if you look deep into these polls, they've been doing a lot of skewing towards the conservatives because they had the polling error back in 2015. They've been really pushing. They put their thumb on the scales in favor of the conservatives. So if there's a mistake in this election, it's going to be towards Labor. There's no way that conservatives outperform their polls. In the raw numbers, you know, it ranges from Labor having a 3-point lead to conservatives having a 4-point lead. So basically a very close election. And if so when you see a poll come back with conservatives up 5, that's probably Labor leading in the underlying numbers. Now, with the way polls work, you have to do a little bit of adjustment, but the UK is notoriously hard to poll. And they've been putting a conservative slant a la 2012 and unskewing the polls on the UK's top line numbers. So I have, I'm not saying celebrate, but the way the trend is and how close it's, becoming even in those top line numbers, I do think it's possible that she can't form a government.
Yeah, it'll be interesting
And,
to see.
it's not out of the realm of the possibility that Corbyn actually wins.
When is the
So,
election? Is it
Thursday.
Today's
Thursday.
Tuesday, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Thursday's a
So
busy
it's pretty
day.
exciting. So,
Appreciate the call. Thanks, Mike.
all right. Thanks, Sam. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
You too. Labor is really pushing this theme of austerity, and particularly in the context of policing. Here is an ad that Labor has released attacking May for the cuts to policing. And remember, she was the Home Secretary, right? Which is
She's Home Secretary. She's responsible for civil, for
like
the...
department. It would be like almost like the functional of like some element of the Department of Homeland Security here.
Yeah. To some,
And
yeah.
I mean, I think
and she
that's-
kind of simultaneously was horrific on civil liberties issues and slash police officers. She managed to be the worst, specifically police officers that might be important for disrupting terrorist networks.
my guess is, and I don't know this well enough, you might have a better sense of this, is that the police unions are not as reactionary there as they can be here. And
They
I'm
might be a
thinking-
bit, they're a bit less reactionary, yes. And also in the UK, for what it's worth, when they implemented austerity, they actually did it across the board. They cut military spending too. So that's another kind of distinction.
All right, here's that ad that Labor has put out.
Home Secretary, do you sleep at night? We're in the forefront of this fight against terrorism. We're in the forefront of keeping our communities safe. And yet we see what is perceived by most of us as an attack on the police service. When you cut policing by up to 20%, the only thing you get more of is not more policing, you get more disorder.
As the changes that have been imposed have caused community policing to collapse, neighbourhood policing was critical to dealing with terrorism. We run the risk here of ultimately risking national security.
The things that you claim that the Federation in the past claimed were going to happen didn't happen. I have to tell you that this kind of scaremongering does nobody any good. This crying wolf has to stop.
But what needs to be done, and it needs to be done immediately, is reverse the cuts to ordinary policing. They're needed in intelligence gathering from communities.
But more armed police officers on the streets than ever before, we're told?
No.
Armed police officers on the streets than ever before?
No, they're not. Basically, people that are alleging that are lying.
So the government are lying?
Yes.
That's, I mean, you know, it's a good ad, cut pretty quick.
The old footage of her, I think, is really effective. I think there's something about that people just innately think is damning just because, they found this old footage of this person. Then to say someone like to cops, you're crying wolf. Like that's
Yeah.
I also just like that. I mean, their whole campaign against Jeremy Corbyn has been basically to demonize him as like pro-terrorist. He has no understanding of how the world works. And all that's happened in this campaign is that he said the war on terrorism is not working and basically presented a critique which is shared by like MI5, like anybody who actually is assessing this stuff, and then the policing critique. So he's actually inverted it where I haven't seen the polling on it, but at the very least, it's not pummeling him the way you would have thought out of the gate.
I mean, I like the other ad better. We don't have that one. I mean, it's a little bit sad, but it's part of the politics, right? Where it's got to be, we're going to get tougher. I mean, but he doesn't, I will say
not
to his
framing
credit,
it like
it's not,
that.
we're going to get tougher on crime. It's more like you need to build the infrastructure of the communities, and one of them is policing.
Yeah, and he's talking very specifically about a terrorism problem. He's
know.
not talking about crime per se and fear-mongering about like teenagers hanging out.
At this point, anything that is not Donald Trump, I would be willing to vote for.
Whoa.
Just supporting.
Jesus, that's the problem.
Well, I mean, I think, honestly, when you look at those things, we're going to put 10,000 more police on the thing. The only thing I can think of is that was Bill Clinton's big claim to fame. 10,000 more, 100,000 more cops on community policing.
But also like 3 strikes laws and expanding prisons. I mean, there's a
I'm
lot
just
of things
talking about what he
there
ran on.
No, he talked about that stuff too, and the death penalty.
Well, then he also
Execute
took time.
yeah.
A man who had extremely low IQ in the middle. He took time off from campaigning.
Oh,
To go.
look, I'm sorry. It's either the presidency or you, my retarded friend, and I'm going to need to.
Yep.
What? You want to know when your next meal is? You ain't having another meal. It's a wrap. That's true.
Colin from. Hey, Sam Seder here. Folks, you probably heard about the whole YouTube advertiser apocalypse. Well, we're suffering from it too. We need your help. If you want to keep this show alive, you want us to be able to still put out clips on a regular basis, head over to our Patreon page. Here's the link right here or down below there. And just give us a couple bucks a month and support this program. Really appreciate it.